and rebuilding. MSMEs for sustainable development at the forefront of building back better and stronger from the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, climate crisis, and conflicts. This is the United Nations theme for World MSME Day 2022. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are joining us from. Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, powered by the Global Magazine, the Global Alliances, proudly welcome you all to this exclusive interview series in connection with World MSME Day 2022. In this series of interviews, we'll be looking at global perspectives of coordinated efforts to the post-pandemic economic recovery of MSMEs. I'm Aparna Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPIT and your host for the show. Every year on June 27th, Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day or MSME Day is celebrated to honor their role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs account for up to 90% of businesses, 60 to 70% of employment, and they account for half of global GDP according to the United Nations. The Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade is an organization based in India, South Africa, US, UK, and UAE with board and council member representation across the world. We have been celebrating World MSME Day since 2018, and this year we are celebrating this day with global perspectives from various leaders, departments, ministries, chambers of commerce, and international organizations. We believe that global perspectives have a significant role to play in paving the way for the future. Today, we have with us a leader who wears multiple hats, Engineer Charles Kalomba. Engineer Kalomba is the Secretary General of the Kenya National Federation of Juakali Associations, Board Director of Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, MSEA, representing the micro and small manufacturing sector in Kenya. He is the chairman to the Commercial, Wholesale, Distributive, Retail Trade and Allied Agencies Sector Training at the National Industrial Training Authority, NITA. He is the Standards License and Bridge Official Nominating Authority to Kenya Bureau of Standards, KBS, regarding domestication of global best practices and standards. License and Bridge to Kenya Industrial Property Institute, KIPI, regarding protection and patenting of the micro and small enterprise local products. And as I mentioned, he has many roles in multiple organizations. Welcome, Engineer Charles Kalomba, to our show. Thanks for joining us today in this very important discussion on MSMEs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm very glad to be in this forum and, of course, to deliver on privilege what really an assignment that I'm supposed to deliver. Thank you very much again, as we did yesterday. So it's a recap and, of course, the in-depth presentation of the roadmap that we've had in this country called Kenya. We are only at 14 hours now, about 14 hours in Kenya, in Nairobi. And I know the rest of the world, maybe you are ahead of us by far. So I thank you very much for the organizers of this day. It's a wonderful day that we must remember that the MSMEs have a critical role to play in the world economy. And thus the celebration of today. So my name is Engineer Charles Kalomba, as you just rightly said it. And you've already introduced what I'm all about. So I'll go straight to the agenda of this day, that Kenya has micro and small entrepreneurs who are on an independent sector, which really links up to the large and that place. So micro small entrepreneurs in Kenya, they account to about 86% of the entire job creation. Then they develop the GDP of this economy up to about 34% of the GDP is held by the micro and small entrepreneurs. And then in the recent study that was done by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we discovered that they are about 18 million out of the 52 million of population of Kenya. So you find that they have a critical role to play, but a few things that hinder them from excelling are what really we need to address. As we celebrate this day, we need to really benchmark ourselves with the rest of the economies of the world to ensure that the MSMEs in Kenya will find a chance and, of course, to do best practices and, of course, to grow the economy together as other countries have done. We have had a recent history on COVID, and of course, that is one of the agendas that we want to address today. how COVID has hampered the businesses in this country. When COVID came in, nobody was prepared for COVID. COVID just found itself into the market in the country. And of course, the MSMEs were not ready because this is not something that has ever happened. So nobody was prepared for it. When COVID came in, most of the facilities that were supposed to mitigate the areas of COVID were not ready in the market. So they were a task like the world has thanks to artisans of this country, and then of course the masks, which were supposed to be protective gear of against COVID, were being made by the MSMEs. So the micro and small entrepreneurs in Kenya, we have an authority which is called the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, which was established just to take care of the small businesses. And this authority brings together the traders in the market. It brings together the agribusiness sector, those people who are doing value addition in agriculture. It brings together the service providers and of course the artisans who are the manufacturers. So represent the manufacturers in the authority, and was it through an enactment of the parliament, but the sector was market access. Market access was very critical because then you could not access markets because of the restrictions alongside COVID. So what we did, we partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, to ensure that we have partners who came in with funding to support us through the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, so that our market in the public sector is assured, so that when we have our commodities that needs to go to the market, we do it through a conglomeration. So as it is, COVID has not really escaped because we are still getting the effects of COVID. So those who are affected, those who are infected, most of them, we lost so many people. But in fact, even in the sector, we lost a few guys in the sector. Only God is gracious. Sector with the customer being succumbing to death. So we would say that COVID was a menace for us as a sector, and we have done little to make sure that we guard ourselves against any repercussions or a recurrence of the same. So the country is still struggling, and I know very well we are going to win it. Financing has been a challenge in the sector because many times the government has not had strategies to finance the sector for growth. I had the privilege to visit India, and of course, one of the economies that we would wish as a country to benchmark with is the Indian economy. I visited Hyderabad, and then Kerala, and then Gujarat, and then Chandigarh, Karnataka, and then Tamil Nadu, and Amritsar in Badala. And I discovered, including Rajasthan, where we are doing a lot of cotton processing. And we covered the country to see how India is doing it. But I would say in 1985, Kenya government had a delegation to India, and the president of the Republic of Kenya was in the delegation to visit RICO, the Rajasthan Industrial Development System, where the industry is thriving well. And that's what made the Kenya government to come policies that will be in line to that. And then we established the Kenya National Federation of Juakali, benchmarking on the Chamber of Commerce of India Constitution. And that's why many times I think Kenya in East Africa, people know that Kenya is like leading East Africa in many things. And that's why I would say that India has really helped us. So as you see of the MSMEs in India, in many delegations, we discovered that we not got it right. So as a country, we want to adjust ourselves and go back and see if we can make it by realigning ourselves to the true financing systems of India. So after the COVID agenda and experience, we need to really push the government, which is, of course, currently we cannot push because there's too much politics now. We are just going into the election in the next 2 or 3 months. And of course, nobody wants to hear. But with the authority in place and other agencies of the government, we foresee how we shall really look at the financing system. The authority has already earmarked to retain about 3 billion Kenya shilling to be a fund that will revolve among the MSMEs. So that one already has gone through stages, and we are aware that the 3 billion will be released not long from now to help lubricate the sector for growth. So that's an agenda that we cannot even discuss because until it comes. So the issues of the policies and strategies for building self-reliant among the MSMEs, there is a lot that we are doing because there is the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which is an institution in Kenya, which we are partnering to make sure that the big players, our big brothers, are recognizing with the small brothers. Then we have the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We have been privileged from 1901 that we've many people who came in from India to come and help us to build the rail. They established in Kenya, and most of them, they are members of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So manufacturing has not been a challenge of them, because what is ailing the whole world is how to do commodity production so that you can sustain your own economy through value addition. So we have those large industries in Kenya. Of course, most of them are owned by people who came in from India generation after generation. So we are in a very serious discussion on how we can do subcontracting partnership, whereby if they are doing products, they must subcontract to the micro, them with components of finished goods so that they can assemble the gadget. And of course, the government becomes market. That's one of the areas that we want to focus on, so that by ensuring that the large players who are already financially stable, they can support the micro and small entrepreneurs to be exposed to specific technologies that can help them to grow. And one of the things that we want to foresee is that there is some resistance, because again, when people grow, they don't want others to grow. There is some little resistance, but we are thinking that we shall overcome that resistance. So the current scenario in terms of job creation, of course, this sector is a job creation sector. We know very well anybody who is retrenched from government, who is retrenched from private sector, they fall into this sector. Because in Kenya we have that law by the ILO, where is the age bracket allows people to, if they drop out of school, they can be packaged in the sector to be able to really know what to do. So we have the retrenchees, we have the school dropouts, we have anybody who just wants to, those who have retired from government, who retired from private sector. So job creation in this sector is really is a multiplier. This sector is a multiplier of jobs. So you cannot limit this sector from what it says, where would we be without the Juakali sector? Because Juakali sector is the one that, even in the education, they are the ones who make boxes that people used to go to school. So you pick out, they are the ones the stoves, the kitchen stoves. That people used for cooking, external level. Now, partnership has had, because we have public-private partnership agendas that the government has been discussing. We have even a policy on public-private partnership, but the policy has not been effective, because for the last 5-6 years we've been discussing the same thing, and the private sector is not really relating well with the public sector. Public-private partnership has been a challenge in this country, this part of the world, because the public sector is driven by politicians who don't seem to understand the need to have policies and political goodwill in development. So we have had a platform for a very long time, almost 6-7 years. We've been discussing public-private partnership, but the people who are the leaders of the country, they don't seem to understand why it is necessary for us to have that partnership so that the public and the private can work together. So who suffers? The small business and the micro businesses suffers a lot because when the policies are not in place, then they don't penetrate very easily. But the large manufacturers, already they are sustainable, they have financial stability, and therefore sometimes they don't feel it as the micro and small enterprise would feel it. But among the private and private partnership, where we have the large manufacturers and the small manufacturers, we are really engaging. And I say Kenya's we have people, especially expressing our partnerships. So if somebody is making a product, we need to look through the product and look at the components of the product and ensure that he can also work with technologies that can really support our people to manufacture components for those products. The large manufacturers just remain the assemblers, procure. So when we talk about furniture, machinery, those are some of the areas that we really focus on, whereby the large manufacturers will give contracts of component manufacturing to the micro and small entrepreneurs, who then in return supply them at cost, and then of course they do assembly and supply to the market. So on partnership, we are still very far because politically nobody is embracing what we are saying. So common development and of course the development of the micro and small entrepreneurs is supposed to be done by policies in the government and of course agencies of the government. So when we talk about KIRD, Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institutes, where I've been a researcher for some time, they need to develop technology and incubate the technology, then pass it on to the micro and small businesses to be able to actualize the technologies, and of course they're being mentored to do the same. When we talk about the Kenya Bureau of Standards, who develops the standards and quality processes, they're supposed to develop the standards in accordance with the MSMEs. So we sit in many committees, many technical committees in Kenya Bureau of Standards to guide Kenya Bureau of Standards on the area of standardization. And then when we are benchmarking our standards, we benchmark with India, with Brazil, with UK, South Africa, and of course Korea. Those are the countries that their economies are closer to really what Kenya wants to see. So when we benchmark the standards and we domesticate them for Kenya, and they become Kenya standards, then we bring in the MSMEs for training, and then they get the standards and they can do a product according to the standard. I'm talking about, we had established a project in the Ministry of Industrial is called Kenya Integrated Projects. Kenya Integrated Project it brings together about 20 agencies in the government. Those agencies are supposed to come in with their mandates, so that if it is research, they have to come in with MSME ladder climbing. Now, MSME ladder climbing is supposed to oversee the micros grow to small, and the small grow to medium, and then the medium grow to large, which is the apex. And then, of course, the economy will be harmonized. So we have MSME ladder climbing in the Ministry of Industrial Association, where we are really meshing in so that the MSMEs can grow, and we really look at them on how they're growing. Then we mentor them in the growth and make sure that they are growing and going into the region for exhibition. So we have annual exhibition in 6 countries in East Africa. We have Sudan as one of the countries, South Sudan. We have Uganda, we have Rwanda, we have Burundi, we have Tanzania, and then we have Kenya. So we do regional exhibitions every year. So we go to every country every year, subsequent year. And of course, the leaders of that country, they participate in the exhibition. And of course, every country brings specific and unified products in the exhibition. And one of the areas that we are from last year, when we were in Mwanza in Tanzania, we've noticed that they are exhibiting the same thing almost every year. So we are coming in with technology to sample out a few technologies that we can grow. But again, we are looking in the face of partners. We have partners all over the world who are supposed to really move in and work with us to make sure that, like, for example, the product is not entering into the global market. So how do we then get our product into the global market? How do we then even reach in the regional market with unique products so that we are not doing mass imports? Because Kenya has been reviewed the market. So they bring in the products. And of course, then there is that space where the Kenyans themselves who are manufacturing, they don't make money in what they are manufacturing. So we want to guard that agenda, arena, and make sure that the government becomes part of the guarding. So when we talk about import, clearing of incoming goods, we must be a bit more strict, like other economies have been, so that we make sure that Kenya now is manufacturing. And then we have an agenda in Kenya, which is buy Kenya, build Kenya. So anything that is made in Kenya, it's given the first priority to make sure that it is sold in the market. And the MSMEs are the ones who are really manufacturing those products that we're talking about. So when we give them the priority to sell in the market, it means those who are importing from other markets gets a limitation to import. Then we have we have other agendas of will be suppliers in that arena. But one of the key areas that we know very well we are suffering from is lack of appropriate technology. Appropriate technology has been a hamper in this sector. So you discover that the people are still doing crude work, and of course the piecemeal, where they take too long to produce a product. We are looking at the face of partners who can come in and support with simple technologies of how they can make their products. Another area that we're looking at is the appropriate financing, because appropriate financing has been very scarce. So you find the banking sector is taking advantage of the sector, and the interest rates have become very, very high. And yet the central bank, who is supposed to regulate this among the MSMEs, we don't see a lot of action over this. So financing has also been a challenge. And then, of course, the people have been really been entrenched from jobs. So the sector has been flooded with retrenchees and school dropouts. So we need to guard that number in terms of how they can be productive. The sector has suffered a lot because we got markets, of course, of the COVID gadgets, but we cannot smile that we got market, because there were challenges that were accompanied by the market. So the challenges would be even access to the same market was that the communities who are working from home, and of course you cannot take those products to their houses. So we were disadvantaged. And number two is that we cannot smile because of what is happening, because the COVID agenda has brought the sector from level 6. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear. Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, I'm saying the COVID agenda brought the sector from level 6 to level 4, if I measure well. And of course, very few would be smiling. And initially I said that we were happy that not many people succumbed to COVID, and we were only affected because most of our friends succumbed to the COVID. But for the sector, I think we were lucky that we did not suffer greatly. The issues of financing, I've already said it, that unless we get appropriate financing for the sector to thrive, it's a challenge, because the money in the market in Kenya has been really high, and therefore the product that is produced cannot access to the market very well. And the technologies we talked about, lack of appropriate technologies, because then there is no mass production, not attract clear market. Like you cannot compare the product from China with the product from Kenya, or the product from India with the product from Kenya. So we just look at the eyes of the partners who can say, yes, I can support the sector to grow. And of course, the government should do that, but government has been a bit very busy on reorganizing herself. So we're looking at well-wishers who can move in and say, yes, we can move in. And of course, as we celebrate this MSME Day, we are thinking that maybe somebody is sitting on the periphery and watching, and he'll have compassion and say, I can help the sector to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very detailed presentation, but I would like to ask you something more. COVID-19, as you said, was a wake-up call for all of us. We lost many people. And what advice would you like to give to MSMEs across the globe on this very special day? And what precautions should they be taking in case of any crisis like this in the future?
Yes. The Bible talks about the 5 foolish virgins who the Lord was coming for a wedding, and he caught them without lights. The lamps had gone out because they didn't have oil. But the wise, foolish virgins, they had oil in their lamp, and it's the ones who joined the king in the banquet, in the wedding, because they had light. So MSMEs again, they need to be among the 5 wise virgins, so that they are ready for any eventuality. They should be ready for anything that can come. Maybe COVID, a worse one can come. We don't know. This one that came, maybe it was just an introduction. Maybe a worse one can come. We just need to be prepared. We've learned lessons. We need to step on the lessons, and we perfect our learning. And of course, that area of synergy where we need to synergize, we need to work in synergy. We need to work in harmony. I'm just saying one of the wisdoms of the 5 virgins would be that we need to embrace new technologies, because the world is evolving. And of course, we have new technologies today. Hello? Yeah, so we need to look at such areas like when we talk about furniture, we have Chinese furniture which is coming into the market that is dismantleable and assemblable. Our furniture is rigid. So we need to look at specific areas of technology and make sure that we are embracing technology. We need also to talk to finance institutions to also have that compassion of supporting the sector to grow, as the governments are also going to impress what the sector is doing. In this part of the world, I think the Juakali sector has been the leader of the economy, especially in this region, in East Africa. We are almost now spreading to other regions. When that, the sector will grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And before we end, would you like to add anything more as a closing remark? What can we do to support our MSMEs?
Yes. The small businesses, of course, micro and small businesses. We have economies of the world which have embraced micro, small businesses like Japan. And one of the things that my friend was asking me yesterday, if I was to relinquish my citizenship as a Kenyan, which country would I pick? I have always been thinking of India, but I discovered India with 1.3 billion, I'll be congested. Japan is only 180 billion population. Per capita of Japan is enormous. It's enormous. So if you ask me, African economies needs to look at what is happening in Japan. The population is too high. The area coverage is so small. But the challenge in Africa is a Japanese challenge, because all the vehicles in Kenya, 95% is Japanese. They don't have raw material. They don't have anything. They have only knowledge economy. So we need to look at that and emulate and see how we can perfect our economy, so that we are almost like a quarter of Japan, and we will survive anything that will come. Look at the statistics and find out very few numbers, because the economy is sustainable, economy is stable, leadership is focused. So we need to entice African economies to have that in mind and make sure they support micro and small businesses to sustain the economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kalomba, for sharing your perspective from Kenya on this serious discussion on MSMEs on World MSME Day. I think you have covered all the major points related to MSMEs in your detailed presentation. Thank you so much for sharing all this. And it was great to know that you had visited India and you could learn a lot from what India is doing in this sector as well. Let's hope this discussion is a small step towards creating a huge change, not just in your country, but globally. Thank you once again for joining us today. Looking forward to working with you in the future as well.
Maybe you may also need to know that when you fly over Kerala, you see a forest. When you go down, you see coconut. When you fly over Kenya, you see one coconut space from each other. And what India is doing on coconut, when I went to Kerala and I saw what is happening on coconut, I was so surprised that India has a coconut council and a choir council. You cannot even calculate because of what they're doing. But again, it's a forest because the commitment of the country, the commitment of the people, the commitment of the economy to focus on that. When I went to Tamil Nadu, we have the Leather Institute of Chennai, and I was so surprised. Yes, I visited Hyderabad, and I went to the Bay of Bengal, and amazing things we saw at the Bay of Bengal. And then in Hyderabad, the electronic city of India, all the products from Hyderabad, they find themselves into the market into Africa. And Kenya is one of the highest consumer of electronic products from India, which are made in Hyderabad. Then I had a privilege to go to Gujarat, the industrial city, the industrial corridor of Gujarat. And again, it's amazing. It's amazing. If you've been to Gujarat, you know what I'm talking about. And you go to Ludhiana, and you find in Amritsar. Then you find again great things in Badala and Amritsar. We went to Rajasthan, and of course, I was told Rajasthan was one of the poorest states of India one time, and today is a very rich state just because of cotton. So those are some of the things we need to look at. And Kenya is an agricultural backbone country. The issues of conversion of agricultural commodities to industry, biggest challenge is to pick that as an example that has happened elsewhere and just domesticate it for this country. And of course, we shall not cry anymore. So the MSMEs will really find a room to be in the manufacturing sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kalomba, for that. For sharing this in detail. I am from Kerala, and I was really happy to hear you talking about Kerala. And I'm in the Middle East just at present. And that was amazing. That was an amazing presentation. Let's hope this discussion is just a small step towards creating a huge change, as I mentioned, not just in your country, but globally. Thank you once again. And as I said, looking forward to working with you. As we all know, MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and they are badly hit during this pandemic. Let's come together and help the SMEs recover and come back. We all know MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and they are badly hit during this pandemic. Let us come together and help the SMEs recover and come back to normal. If you are an expert on MSMEs and you have an opinion to share, we would like to invite you to join us in this discussion. Please mail us at contact@jcpat.us. If you're an MSME and have any questions to ask or concerns to express, please comment under this video and we will take it up with the experts. We are on a mission 100 million, a mission to touch the lives of 100 million entrepreneurs. If you would like to join us and be part of this game-changing mission, you can contact us through mail, or you can find us on all social media as JCPAT Global. Let's together change the world brick by brick. Let's be the change we wish to see in this world, as Mahatma Gandhi said. See you all in our next session with another expert leader on MSMEs. Till then, this is Aparna Ji Kumar signing off. Thank you once again, Engineer Kalomba, for joining us on our show. Bye-bye, take care, and have a great day.